Hello, everyone. This is Bentley, and today I need to tell you a story. This is not the video I intended to release today. Actually, that's been pushed to a different day because I feel like I wanted to tell the story a lot faster. At the time of filming this, it's still Labor Day weekend, so you can tell I pushed this pretty quick because it's going to be the next week by the time I get this edited and out. But you'll notice maybe in some of the blur behind me, there's some stuff moving around or more plants in the 75 long where the red stripe rainbows, the wild caught Melanochanea rubrostriata are supposed to go. Well, it's not them. Let me tell you a story. So, it's late at night. It's Friday night before of Labor Day weekend, and I'm working on my computer upstairs in my bedroom. And I get this message on OfferUp from an old ad I've had up for a long time for plants. I leave it up there because I don't get a lot of contact on it, so every once in a while it gives me an opportunity to practice some plants for profit and help some people out by getting some plants in a new Aquarius tank. I don't really see a lot of messages on it, but when I do, I tend to ignore them if it's late at night and I work on something else, and I'll get back to them the next morning. But for some reason, I thought to myself, oh, I should take a break from my work and check that message out. It might matter. Man, I'm so glad I did, because normally I would have ignored this message. So I get to OfferUp on my computer and I look it up, and it just starts with help. My tank cracked. Can you please come take my fish and shrimp? This is from a gentleman named Mike. And I instantly knew that panic. Because I've had tanks leak, and I've had stuff that I thought was perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden I wake up the next morning to a tank that's dripping, and I'm worried about my fish, or I'm worried that my equipment's going to cause some kind of issue, and it'd be even worse for my fish and plants. And, a little over 3 years of being back from this hobby, I've had a couple different tanks have issues on me, and every time I kind of wonder to myself, will this one be the last? Can I run any worse on my luck? But every time, I've been lucky and everything's kind of gone well. I haven't had something too horrible yet, which I've got to knock on this tank stand behind me. So anyway, I respond immediately, and I'm like, well, hey, man, tell me what we're dealing with. What kind of fish? To make sure that it's not like some predatory cichlid or something that I would never be able to care for in the first place. He's like, oh, it was my planted tank. I've got plants, shrimp, and corydoras, and some tetras, and that's about it. A few of them have already died. So obviously they've been in some kind of random container for a while. And I said, okay, yeah, I can take them. Do you have them in buckets? Do you have buckets? And he goes, hey, can I get your cell phone number? I can't send you pictures through OfferUp, which is true. And I just want to send you pictures of what I've done so far. And I go, yeah, that's fine. So send him my cell phone number. He sends me pictures, and I see like what looks like a closed hamper, like the solid kind, what I'm talking about, a little trash can type, full of water and plants, and like this big shallow Rubbermaid container that's designed to hold clothes under a bed that's full of gravel and shrimp, and a one bucket that's just nebulously full of fish. And I was like, oh man, I need to clean out an extra bucket. I can't fit some of that stuff in my car. I might need to clean out 2. When are you looking to do this? And I said, can you come tonight? Now keep in mind, it's already late at night. I'm actually was like thinking 5 minutes before this, I should wrap up and go to bed. I got stuff to do tomorrow. I got family coming into town. I need to get filming done. I need to edit. I need, all these things going through my head of what my Labor Day weekend is going to be. And now I'm going to go get fish. I think about it now, and I'm just, it's wild how our hobby is sometimes. So I tell him, yeah, send me your address. You're in Tacoma. And when he gets my address, he's like the farthest part of Tacoma from me. And I'm like, hey, it's going to take me like 30-ish minutes to get to you, and I need a little bit more time. I need to go clean out a bucket or two to make sure that I have enough room in my car to take everything with me safely. He says, no problem. That's great. Thank you so much. So I get out there, a bucket in hand, and, I see a couple of this house with an open door and lights on and a couple of guys running back and forth. And I met Mike and I talked with him very briefly, just asked him kind of what happened, if he knew what was going on, or if it was did he have another tank, anything like that. And then pretty soon it was like, hey, we need to get these fish moving. We need to get them into warm water. We need to get them out of this bucket. And we went into action. And he had a 75-gallon tank that blew out on him. It blew a seam in the bottom of the tank. He sent me a picture later after I was at home putting fish away. He sent me a picture showing me, he's like, hey, I found the culprit. And there's this silicone seam that he can pull up completely that had blown out from, substrate or something getting under it. And eventually the pressure just forcing it free. Now my tank's full of some cardinal tetras, some curry tetras. There's one lone kochu tetra of all things. A bunch of different corydoras. So some emerald brocas, some stir-by-cories, and one single panda cory. And then one big, like this big dojo loach. It just looks like just a big pink noodle swimming around. And, there's like 2 marble hatchets in here too. I'll show you some shots with a bunch of shrimp, and you'll see as I'm talking just kind of some of the fish that are here that now, and it's like 20 corydoras, and they're piling around in this big herd in this tank. And I never thought that I would be using this tank as an orphan tank. That's what that 29-gallon I did for Tank of the Week is for. But because this was the only tank that I had empty, and I want to be a good aquarist, even though these fish look phenomenally healthy, they've gone through a traumatic event. They could have all sorts of problems. It's still smart to quarantine. So the 75-gallon monacrylic was the only tank empty. I was literally planning during Labor Day weekend to put my rubro striatas into this thing and finally have them in their home. I'd put some crushed coral in there to buffer the TDS up a little higher for them, make them perfect. And now they can't go in there because there's other fish that have to be quarantined. But I think that's part of the hobby. Like, I'm a big softie. I can't let a fish not have a home. I'm not going to let a fish just die. I'm going to do everything I can because that's just the person I was raised to be. And when I had a more free schedule, I would very frequently go out to people on Craigslist and stuff who would have those messages like, I'm moving. Can someone please take my fish? And very frequently I would offer to take them. I wouldn't buy them. If somebody needs their fish rehomed and to have a home until that fish passes away, I would do that. That's something that I just do. It's kind of something my family does. We're those kind of people. We just look after people. We've always been like that. I think it comes from my great-grandmother, which, Grandma Grace, you taught us well. So I know this is kind of a rambling thing in a story, but part of the best part about Aquarius is after we had everything packed in my car and I took like 5 minutes to talk to Mike and I just told him, hey man, are you planning on getting another tank? He's like, yeah, I think I want to do acrylic so I don't ever have to worry about a seam again. And I said, okay, well, you've got my cell phone number. If you need some help finding one or you have questions about it and the differences or what to look for in a used tank to see if the used tank is good, just feel free to contact me. And if I hear from you in like a month where you've got a new tank and you're ready for fish again, you're welcome to come get your fish. Like, I don't mind holding them for a little bit for you. But after a certain period of time, then, I'm probably just going to call them mine and give them a proper home in one of my tanks. And he said, don't worry about it. I really appreciate it. But if I have questions, I'll message you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And it was just one of those things where it's like, this hobby, I can't think of any other hobby where someone would have messaged me in the middle of the night and I would have looked at it and went, I need to drive to this random stranger's house and pick things up from this person in a part of town that's really far away from me. Just like when I got home, my roommate was here and we were putting fish into this tank and catching them out of buckets and trying to very carefully get shrimp out until I think it was like 1 or 1:30 in the morning. I mean, it was very late when I finally trudged upstairs to bed, feeling tired and sore from lifting heavy buckets because one of the buckets is full of gravel. It weighs a ton. And I was lifting that all over the place. And catching fish in the stress of like, please Corridores, don't freak out and release your neurotoxin and stuff like that, right? Just like all these things where these little lives that are now in my hands, I'm so concerned with them that I am stressing myself out over $3 and $4 fish. But that's not the point, right? The point is, this is a unique hobby in that we aquarists just kind of almost universally trust people, because we know that most people who keep fish are pretty relaxed people. And if somebody reaches out to you in a moment of panic and you're a big softy like me, you're really not afraid to jump to action to help somebody, assuming that you can. I was lucky. I had a 75-gallon tank that was empty. It had no fish. It had cycled for 2 months or a month and a half. It was ready for something to go in it. And something was supposed to go in it. And apparently, fate or whatever you want to believe in said, it's not what you thought. It's something else. But it's the right thing right now. I don't know. And in times like this, when the world just seems like it's horrible, I think it's nice to share a good story and do a good deed. And I think that's why I felt the need to talk about this little story and push it way ahead of all the other stuff I had planned to release, because I thought you guys might appreciate it. Whew. I ramble over, I suppose. All the usual YouTubes. If you like this little story, if you like doing things like that, give me a thumbs up and tell me down in the comments. Have you done something like this? Have someone saved your butt at a time when you needed it most? I'd love to be able to read those stories and chat with you guys, because moments like this are what make me feel the best about being a fish keeper, like helping a random person out. Sometimes it's through educational content for you guys. Sometimes it's physically driving to a random person's house in the middle of the night to pick up their fish, to make sure that they live. But every time I get to do something like that, it always feels worth it. It always feels good. And I think this world just needs a little more of that. Now, if you're a cold-hearted soul, you trust no one, you've never had problems, and you've never helped anyone, feel free to thumb down this video twice. That's you. I would hope that you've done a little bit more than that in your life, because it's a little more fulfilling when you do. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.